Speaking of sacrifice, sacrifice often comes from love, affection, and the desire to make others happy, especially family and loved ones. But remember, sacrifice can only be justified if the goal is to achieve a greater good, even though it requires enduring some losses. The question is, can we sacrifice many things, many people, many sides, and cause widespread damage just to save one person? That is the premise of the 1998 film Desperate Measures. So, what makes this movie thrilling and intense? Put on your headphones, get comfortable, adjust your position, tighten your underwear, enjoy the movie and check it out.
So they put him into solitary through the end of the year.
Well, he's the real thing. McCabe has escaped twice.
Set in one of the most secure prisons in America, we are introduced to an inmate named Peter McCabe, who is told by a guard that someone wants to see him. McCabe is an extremely dangerous killer sentenced to life imprisonment for his crimes. That person is Frank Connor, a police captain who comes to see McCabe with an offer. Frank's son has been diagnosed with late-stage cancer, and according to medical experts, the only way to save him is through a bone marrow transplant. The only compatible match happens to be McCabe.
So what do I get out of it? You get to save my son's life.
And why do I care about your son's life?
From the start, Frank makes it clear there will be no reward of freedom or anything else. If McCabe agrees to the operation, Frank simply says it could be a form of redemption for all the crimes McCabe has committed in the past.
What am I supposed to find some kind of redemption in the eyes of God?
Do you want redemption?
In the head, guy in the store, boom, boom. That was real.
This offer does not interest McCabe at all, because moral considerations mean nothing to him. Taking someone's life has never made him feel guilty. Frank is forced to leave empty-handed, without any hope of saving his beloved son.
Officers!
At the hospital, Frank is immediately informed by the doctor that his son's condition is worsening and that his time is running out. Frank can only hold his child and keep giving him hope, pretending that the transplant might still be possible.
For a bone marrow transplant.
Really?
Yeah.
A miracle happens when Frank unexpectedly receives a call from McCabe, asking to meet his son in person.
Meet him. What for?
Look, it's too much trouble.
When they finally meet, McCabe has a small conversation with the boy, and in the end, he firmly says that he is willing to go through with the transplant. It turned out that it was not free. McCabe made several special requests, including being allowed to smoke inside the prison, having access to the prison library, being released from solitary confinement, being served a delicious breakfast every morning, and being given a TV and a soft sofa like a corrupt official living in luxury.
This is great. I'm just happy things are working out for both.
Right.
Given the fact that McCabe was classified as a genius with an IQ above 150, and that he had attempted several escapes and injured multiple guards in the past, the warden would never agree to such special requests.
Warden's never gonna approve all the stuff I want.
As a result, Frank tried to lobby the governor to persuade the warden into granting McCabe's demands for humanitarian reasons. After nearly losing his temper because the governor was difficult to reach, Frank finally received good news. The procedure was approved legally and would even be broadcast live on television.
Right, of course.
Is that a deal?
Absolutely, yes.
I'd like to thank Governor Walker personally.
Some time later, after the requests had been granted, neither Frank nor anyone else realized that McCabe was already preparing an escape plan. He began by breaking his own thumb. It was excruciatingly painful, but he forced himself to do it. Next, McCabe approached a senior inmate known for smuggling goods into the prison. He asked for a specific item, a small glass vial containing a drug that could counter anesthesia. No one knew exactly what he intended to do with it.
I want it in an ampoule, not a vial.
It did not stop there. Since his access to the prison library had been restored, McCabe immediately used the computer to study the architectural design of the hospital where the transplant would take place. With his photographic memory, he was able to remember every detail after a single glance. The following morning during routine medication distribution, McCabe pretended to swallow his usual dose provided by the senior inmate. In reality, he spat it out once back in his cell. As arranged, the inmate had smuggled in a vial containing a drug that could counteract anesthesia, hidden under a paper cup. McCabe performed another insane act, tying the small vial with a string attached to his molar, then swallowing it so it would stay lodged in his throat until the right moment to retrieve it. Not only that, McCabe also removed the flint from a lighter and tucked it beneath his fingernail to use later in his escape plan. On the day of the operation, Frank's son had already been brought to the hospital. Meanwhile, McCabe was transported there under heavy guard in a convoy of police vehicles. Everyone knew he was a dangerously intelligent prisoner who could attack the guards the moment he saw an opportunity. Even the police dogs were frightened by McCabe's menacing presence. However, that did not stop the doctors from continuing with the planned medical procedure.
Excuse me.
Upon entering the operating room, McCabe was immediately placed on the surgical table and was about to be given anesthesia. At that moment, he quickly bit down on the glass vial containing a drug that could counteract anesthesia while slowly pulling his arm free. And suddenly,
Responding to the enemy.
yes, everything he had prepared worked perfectly, throwing the doctors into panic. Although he was shot in the leg, the tough McCabe still managed to escape through a tunnel that led to the laundry room. While the other officers were occupied, Frank, who had already studied McCabe's way of thinking, acted on his own by heading straight to the laundry room. Following the trail of blood dripping from McCabe's leg, Frank successfully tracked him to the recovery ward.
Your concern is noted.
After stitching and treating his own wound, McCabe took a female surgeon hostage, let us call her Dr. Yulee, and threatened to kill her. Knowing that Frank needed her alive, McCabe cleverly used that fact to his advantage.
Put the knife down.
I'm not afraid to die, Frank. Okay, I'm putting the gun down.
Not long after Frank placed his gun on the floor, another officer appeared, unaware of how important McCabe's life was for Frank's son. A brief conflict broke out between Frank and the officer. Frank urged him to stay calm and not to be provoked by McCabe's intimidation.
5. Here, let her go. Hey, Wilson!
And yes, McCabe managed to seize Frank's gun thanks to a foolish mistake made by a nurse, and as a result,
Lower your gun right now.
Frank, get out of the way.
yes, McCabe made his escape, killing one officer with a gunshot and leaving another police officer bleeding from a wound in his abdomen. As the police chief and his forces stormed in, Frank was quickly restrained and taken away, deemed a hindrance to the ongoing arrest. Seeing the large number of reporters outside, Frank used the chaos to create a distraction and escaped on a police motorcycle. In a secluded location, Frank quickly called one of his fellow officers to ask about his son's condition, but suddenly,
To help me get back into the hospital, go down to the basement.
Yes, McCabe managed to knock Frank's fellow officer unconscious and immediately dragged Dr. Yulee, demanding to know where the oxygen tanks were stored. No one knew exactly what he planned to do with them, but it seemed he was preparing to cause an explosion, because he realized that the police had already surrounded every exit of the hospital. At the same time, just as Frank returned to the hospital, McCabe forced Dr. Yulee to lead him to the oxygen storage room, and Yulee managed to escape after hitting McCabe with an oxygen tank. By chance, she ran into Frank, who immediately told her about McCabe's current whereabouts. Not wanting the police to interfere, Frank asked Yulee to stay quiet and let him handle the capture on his own.
Police! Hold it right there!
Just as McCabe was dragging his oxygen tank, Frank arrived in time and demanded that he surrender. But
No!
because of the explosion, the entire hospital lost power, leaving the building in darkness. This situation made it easier for McCabe to search for another escape route.
Get Jimmy! The emergency lighting is going to kick in.
Since the medical equipment was no longer functioning, Yulee instructed a colleague to move Frank's son to the building next door, which was reserved as an isolation ward for patients with infectious diseases. At the same time, McCabe planned to escape to that same building, but by climbing over a barbed wire fence along the bridge. Frank realized what McCabe was attempting but had no choice but to let him go. In fact, he even helped him by shooting out the floodlights aimed in McCabe's direction, giving him cover to enter the other building. As soon as he got inside, McCabe seized a head guard and forced him to lead the way to the surveillance room. With a vial of sulfuric acid in his hand, ready to be injected at any moment, the guards could do nothing but obey.
Everybody face down on the floor! Put your hands over your head right now! Get on the floor!
Using his intelligence, McCabe operated one of the computers to lock all access points into the building and ordered the guards to surrender and gather in a single room.
I'm in charge here. Hey, fat boy, up on 6, scratch you. Let's go, move it!
Meanwhile, the police chief was not sitting idle by. He had already sent in a special agent to infiltrate the building through the air ducts, and as soon as the agent reached the surveillance room, he used a small camera to scout the area, not realizing that dust caught in the ventilation filters was falling piece by piece onto the desk below. This gave away his presence, and
Don't presume to know what I'm prepared to do.
Duck.
the moment the agent was killed and the police chief's plan failed completely, Frank appeared on the bridge, accompanied by Yulee, who was deeply compassionate. Whatever plan Frank had in mind to capture McCabe was still uncertain, but he remained optimistic that he could persuade McCabe to donate part of his bone marrow.
So what have you got for me, Frank?
I can help.
Once inside, Frank and Yulee split up. Yulee went to care for and protect Frank's son, while Frank set out to find a way to capture McCabe alive. After tying up the guards, McCabe moved toward the window facing the connecting bridge. There, he had already placed an oxygen tank in the middle of the bridge so that when the police troops crossed it, he could shoot the tank and kill them all at once. Fortunately, Frank happened to discover this sinister plan in time. He quickly warned the police chief to order the troops to retreat. And guess what happened?
Listen to me.
Completely. Get out of here.
Fall back.
Oh, Frank!
I think he just saved our lives.
After successfully saving his fellow officers, Frank rushed to the room where his son was being treated to check on him. But
Hey, open this door. What's up?
yes, McCabe was already aware of it and threatened to kill Frank unless the door was opened immediately. Once the door was opened and Frank's son leapt into his arms, McCabe shot Frank's colleague in the leg. And
Nice try, dog.
having had enough of playing games, McCabe demanded that Frank keep his promise about helping him escape the building. Not wanting to endanger his son, Frank was forced to reveal the location of a secret elevator shaft that McCabe could use to get out.
I'm gonna need protection.
Get that gun away from my son!
We can dispense with the transplantation rate.
For extra protection, McCabe insisted on taking Frank's son with him, which instantly enraged Frank. And
You and me, come on!
No more deals, Frank.
inside the morgue, McCabe quickly broke through a wall that concealed a hidden passage leading to an underground tunnel. He had a brief conversation with Frank's son, during which he encouraged him to keep fighting for his life. No matter how heavy the burden or how severe the illness, he said, it could be a way to cleanse sins that no good deeds could ever repay. He told him to keep living even if it felt like being a burden.
You wait here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. You know, kid, if I could have done that for you.
Just as McCabe was escaping, Frank arrived and immediately ordered his son to return to the treatment room, while he went after McCabe by entering the tunnel. Too late. McCabe had already made it outside through the exit. Moments later, when Frank reached the surface, he found a driver lying on the roadside. According to eyewitnesses, McCabe had escaped in a blue truck stolen from the driver. Quickly, Frank borrowed one of the officer's vehicles while coordinating with the local police. In order to save a single life, his own son, Frank went so far as to cause chaos on the highway, but he never went as far as deliberately running over innocent civilians. When McCabe was finally in sight, Frank tricked him into turning onto a drawbridge. And McCabe was forced to get out of the vehicle and walk onto the bridge while desperately looking for another way to escape. Calmly, Frank walked after him, already knowing there was no other way for McCabe to escape his capture. Once again, the police chief appeared in a helicopter and tried to shoot McCabe from above. Frank managed to shield him by using his own body as a cover. In a state of utter exhaustion, McCabe still tried to escape by attempting to jump from the bridge, and because he had already been shot in the leg, McCabe lost consciousness and fell into the water just as Frank leapt in after him. Frank managed to pull him back to the surface and handed him over to the medical team that had just arrived.
Move it, let's go!
Without wasting time, the transplant procedure was carried out, extracting part of McCabe's bone marrow to be implanted into Frank's son. After some time, the boy's condition began to improve, which meant the transplant was a success. As for McCabe, he remained bedridden and would need several months to recover. When the police came to check on him, he was already conscious and asked about the condition of Frank's son. And guess what happened next?
What? How's that boy Matthew Connor doing?
Yeah, he's doing good.
What kind of car do you have?
Whatever McKay's story may be from here on, he truly was one tough bastard who seemed almost impossible to kill. But one thing worth giving him credit for is that, although he was a criminal and certainly not a man in uniform, this high-profile outlaw never hurt or killed anyone unless he was in a life-threatening situation. The end. A surprisingly fair conclusion. Do you agree with what Frank did, sacrificing the lives of several officers, causing traffic chaos, and even damaging public property, all for the life of one person, his son? Do you agree or not? Let me know what you think in the comments. Was his decision selfish, or was it understandable? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm Joe, representing the board of directors. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.